The Buccaneers gain some and they lose some. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome into this live preview episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen or view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. Credentialed member of the media covering your Tampa Bay Buccaneers as editor-in-chief at the 813.tv. Here with you every Monday through Friday along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message, no ads or anything like that. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Keys to the game and predictions coming up in a little bit. But let's start with the injury issues that are a little bit of a mixed bag as the Bucs have gotten both good and bad news. The good news is Calijah Cancey is good to go. He was a full participant all week, and Todd Bowles told the media that he will play on Sunday. The other good news is that Goedeke cleared concussion protocol, and according to Bowles, barring a setback, he will be suited up and on the field for the Bucs this week. Antoine Winfield Jr. is officially a game-time decision. He was limited in practice all week, but Bowles said that he is trending towards playing, but it is not officially official quite yet. I do think that Antoine Winfield Jr. plays, but we do have to kind of temper expectations just in case he doesn't. These are all huge additions for the Buccaneers, and I talked on Wednesday's show about how big it would be for Cancey and Winfield Jr. to return this week, especially given how much Logan Hall has stepped up and become a legitimate pass rush threat. Cancey being on the field improves the pass rush immensely because of the attention that he commands and how his presence alone opens up things for guys like Yaya Diaby and other blitzing players that Todd Bowles wants to send. Against a weakened Saints offensive line, the Cancey-Vita Vea combo could really create some problems for a rookie quarterback, but it is not all good news. Graham Barton, Christian Izien, Cameron Johnson, Trey Palmer, they are all out this week, and Rachaad White is doubtful with a foot injury. So just as the Bucs get back a key offensive lineman, they lose one. Then they get healthier on defense just to lose another piece there. Izien played really well in Winfield's absence, and I thought there was a good chance he was still going to get plenty of playing time, whether it was returning to that nickel corner spot or coming in for Britt on some of those third down passing situations to help defend the middle of the field. I talked about that on Wednesday's episode that, we've seen KJ Britt pulled off the field for Servassier Dennis. With Dennis on the shelf right now, it wouldn't have surprised me if Bowles replaced Britt with a member of the secondary in order to just improve the coverage on these third down passing situations. Now it's going to be Tyke Smith at that slot corner position where he's had his ups and downs. And I really don't know what Todd Bowles is going to do as far as not leaving the middle of the field up to KJ Britt. We could see a little more JJ Russell, maybe some Josh Hayes, but I'm not sure really either of those guys is going to be an upgrade over what we saw last week. On the flip side, with Antoine being a game-time decision and Izien being out, what do the Bucs do at safety without both of those guys? So a lot of pieces might still be moving around by the time kickoff rolls around on Sunday. With that said, it seems the biggest blow, along with Barton, will be Rachaad White likely being out. It is not often that a player goes from limited to not participating in practice, gets a doubtful distinction on the injury report and then ends up taking the field. This would mean that it's Bucky Irving's time to shine. Robert Hainsey's going to get the start at center where he has plenty of experience, and it won't be the downgrade from Graham Barton to Robert Hainsey than it was from Luke Goedeke to Justin School. It's still a downgrade, but not nearly as drastic of a drop-off in terms of ability. However, Bucky Irving has been so good at finding those little creases in the line to sneak through and turn a 1 to 2 yard gain into 5 to 6 yard gains. He was already getting an increased workload because of how well he had been playing. So now he is going to get the overwhelming majority of snaps at running back. Sean Tucker is going to get his chances, and the Saints defense has not been great against the run. So Irving could wind up with a pretty nice breakout game this Sunday. The downside is that the Bucs are going to be losing their better running back when it comes to blitz pickups. With no Barton anchoring the middle of the line, the Saints are going to bring the heat through the interior and really test Bucky Irving's ability to pick up the blitz. That's going to be a potential problem for Baker Mayfield in this one, to not have the reliability that he normally has when it comes to a running back being able to chip some of those blitzing players and then kind of leak out as that safety valve if the pressure is still closing in. So just when you thought really that the Bucs were trending in the right direction in terms of getting healthy, they have a whole new list of players that are not going to be able to suit up in a must-win game. On the flip side, the Saints are going to be without Cesar Ruiz, their starting right guard, as well as starting safety Will Harris, linebacker Pete Werner, running back Taysom Hill. Their starting center Lucas Patrick is questionable with a chest injury. He did not practice all week. So no practice for Patrick, still listed as questionable. And I'm not going to lie to you. If you don't practice all week and you're dealing with a chest injury, and then you're the one who's going to have to go head-to-head with Vita Vea all afternoon, that does not sound like my idea of a good time, nor does it sound like a recipe for success for that Saints offensive line. So while the Bucs are banged up, so are the Saints. The Bucs are definitely the more rested team, having played on Thursday while the Saints lost on a Monday night. So this is going to be an interesting battle between the two, who are both in need of a win. The Bucs are trying to keep pace with the Falcons. The Saints are trying to keep their heads above water after losing 3 games in a row. You have the Falcons getting ready to take on the Panthers. Barring a miracle, they're going to move to 3-0 in the division. The Bucs and Saints, neither one of these teams can afford to go 0-2 in the division and still have hope that they're going to be able to overcome that and surpass the Falcons for the NFC South crown, barring, again, a major collapse. Of course, there's still lots of time left in the season. You know, the Bucs could end up with a better overall record than the Falcons, but have a worse division record. There's a lot of different possibilities, but when it comes down to tiebreakers, to those types of situations, starting in an 0-2 hole in the division when the team that you're looking up at is sitting at 3-0 in the first half of the year, that's not generally going to favor the team that starts 0-2. So this is a critically important game for the Buccaneers. They can lose next week to the Baltimore Ravens. It would not have anywhere close to the ramifications of a loss this Sunday to the New Orleans Saints. Going to jump into the chat real quick before we move on. Let's see. Danny says, how did the list get longer with 10 days off? It's a Bucs life. I mean, I don't know really how to answer that, you know, and coming off of that Falcons game, we were all hopeful and optimistic that Cancey and Winfield were going to be able to return. Did not expect to lose Graham Barton to a hamstring injury, to lose Christian Izien to an elbow injury, to lose Rachaad White to a foot injury. But these things happen. The Bucs have been able to overcome a lot of these injuries this season. There's no reason that they can't overcome them again in this one. Richard says Bucs might have to rely on 20-plus yard touchdowns. Saints red zone defense is top of the league. We'll see. We'll see. And you know, Bucky's an explosive dude. He can rip off 20, 30, 40-yard runs in the blink of an eye. So that's going to be certainly important. Andrain says Jamel needs to step up. I could not agree with you more. Could not agree with you more. He's had a rough start to the season, no doubt about it. I am going to talk a little bit more about the corners coming up in a little bit. Danny in the chat, real quick, says, who's our third running back now with White out? Third and one. It's Bucky and it's Sean Tucker. Boom. End of list. That's how they're rolling. Might elevate someone from the practice squad. We won't know about that until tomorrow. Or if you're listening to this on Saturday, we'll know about that later on Saturday. But they only have 3 running backs on the active roster. It's Rachaad, it's Bucky, it's Sean Tucker. That is it. So we'll have to keep an eye out for the report on Saturday as to whether or not the Bucs elevate anyone. But how can the Buccaneers get a must-win? Offensive and defensive keys to the game coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It is the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. It's the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players leaves in the first half and doesn't return. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL, all lowercase, all one word, and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every single day. The new Locked On NFL is here. Locked On NFL is now 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, and then you stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. So make it your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Keys to the game in this one. And for the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to talk about something that we really haven't talked about on this show very often. I could talk about Bucky Irving. I could talk again about Chris Godwin. You know how I feel about Godwin this season, how I feel about his role in the offense. I could talk about Baker. I'm going to talk about the Buccaneers not being scared to use the tight end. Cade Otton has gotten some increased usage the last few weeks. He had 4 targets over the first 2 games combined, but over the last 3, he has 21 targets that have resulted in 16 receptions. Half of those resulted in first downs. I mentioned the Saints' running defense being vulnerable. So is their ability to stop the tight end. They allowed Luke Schoonmaker to get 6 catches for 43 yards. That's not, all worldly, but in today's tight end economy, that's a pretty good day. Dallas Goedeke, 10 receptions for 170 yards. And then this past Monday, Travis Kelce, 9 receptions, 70 yards. The Saints can be beaten by the tight end, and Cade Otton is a guy that the Bucs need to make sure is heavily involved in the game plan. I know everyone is excited about Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore because everybody's always excited about Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore, but Lattimore is one of the few corners to ever really be consistently solid against Evans. Evans even talked about it this week, saying that a lot of times he's let his emotions get the best of him in that matchup. Evans is going to have a couple of targets, but this game is going to be won based on the usage of Chris Godwin and Cade Otton. You have Jalen McMillan coming back, which is absolutely great. Sterling Shepard has had 2 really solid outings now in back-to-back weeks, but Godwin drives this bus, and Otton is going to find plenty of opportunities against a linebacking core that cannot seem to cover tight ends at all. Liam Cohen told the media on Thursday about how important it is to make sure that Otton is involved. He called Otton's involvement, quote, critical to their success. This is the game where they can really attack a weakness of that New Orleans defense to keep drives going. You keep those drives going, you're going to quiet the crowd. Once you quiet the crowd, you're going to be in full control. Feed Otton all day long. I need to be able to come on the show with all of you in the live chat right now, with Benjamin and Ghost Hunter and Bry and Matt and Destined for Greatness and Danny and all of you guys. And I need to be talking about how Chris Godwin and Cade Otton both had double-digit targets in this game. I need 8 to 9 receptions from Chris Godwin. I need 6 to 7 receptions from Cade Otton. That is really going to chip away at the psyche of the New Orleans defense. It's going to take the crowd out of it, and it's going to allow the Bucs to have long, sustained scoring drives. Feed Otton in this one. He is not going to be a key to my game very often this year, but in this one, this is the matchup where you expose the mismatch and you let Otton eat all day. Defensively, the key is to go back to the tried and true. Play Spencer Rattler the exact same way that you played against Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts. Get him on the ground early. And I'm talking opening drive, knock his butt to the ground. Even if you don't sack him, or even if you don't physically get him to the ground, get in his face fast enough that he panics and throws the ball away or makes a bad mistake. You set the tone by letting him know that this is how things are going to be all afternoon. Give him that welcome to the NFL moment for a rookie quarterback. I said it on Wednesday. I said it on the crossover. Rattler is an absolutely fantastic athlete, and he is going to buy time and make plays with his legs. That is not Derek Carr's forte. You cannot go into this game with the same defensive game plan going against Rattler as you would have going against Carr. You have to approach it the way that you did the other mobile quarterbacks that you faced. Having Cancey and Winfield back changes what kind of looks you can give, how well the pass rush is operating, what kind of coverage that you're in, but you cannot let Rattler get confidence early in the game. Think back to the Broncos game, and Bo Nix starting with the ball, marching right down the field and putting points on the board to open up that game against the Buccaneers. Immediately, Nix was comfortable in the pocket and got into his zone. After that, he was completely unfazed. It did not matter what the Buccaneers did. He was unfazed. He was feeling it, and it came from that early opening drive confidence boost where they took the lead immediately. You let that happen with Rattler in the Superdome with Olave and Shaheed and Kamara out there as his weapons, you're going to pay for it. He will shred this defense, and this will either turn into a blowout or a shootout. It's on Vita Vea and Calijah Kancey, Logan Hall, Yaya Diaby to set the tone with those guys up front. Take advantage of a wounded and beaten up Saints O-line. Bowles needs to do what he does best, and that is disguise what he's actually doing. Give this kid looks that makes him think that he knows what he's saying, and then absolutely blindside him. Bait him into critical mistakes early in the game and then capitalize on those mistakes. I know I sound like a broken record, but when the Bucs have been successful this year, it has been because they were able to get a lot of pressure into the backfield and knock the quarterback around. You give Spencer Rattler the amount of time that you gave Kirk Cousins, and he will beat you. He may have only been a 5th-round pick, but this kid has an absolute cannon for an arm. He can fit passes into nearly non-existent windows, and this secondary has been vulnerable at times throughout the season. Do not let him pick you apart from a clean pocket and continue to expose some of those weaknesses. Do not let him expose Jamel Dean. Do not let him expose the absence of Christian Izien. Do not let him expose KJ Britt roaming over the middle of the field, because he will do it. You have to get him on his toes, off his game, and in his head from the very first snap. Going to jump into the chat again before we hit this next break. Ghost Hunter Gal says, Bulls loses to rookie quarterbacks have been more recent, especially in the last few years. In 2022, Bulls defense notably went 0-3 against rookies, including Brock Purdy and CJ Stroud. I think the rookie quarterback thing with Todd Bowles has been slightly overblown. We talked about it on the crossover with David. I can't remember the exact record at this point in time, but it has been slightly over-exaggerated, and I think it's because those losses stick out so much more than the wins. But he wins about 67% of his games when going up against a rookie quarterback. If the Bucs win this one, it will be that 67% mark on this season. He will have beat Jaden Daniels and Spencer Rattler, lost to Bo Nix. That's 2-1. That's a 667 winning percentage. Let's see. Demon Hunter in the chat says, is Jordan playing? I'm assuming you mean Jordan Whitehead. Yeah, he's, as far as I know, he is in. He's not designated to be out. I can tell you that much. But yeah, it seems like he is going to be fine and ready to go. So hopefully, if Winfield is able to play, you'll have that duo back on the back end of the defense for the first time since week 1, when the Bucs were the only team to beat Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. It is prediction time coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. This weekend, the Buccaneers are 3.5-point road favorites over the New Orleans Saints with an over-under of 41.5. And thanks to Thursday night's loss to the Falcons, the Bucs have dropped to plus 200 in the odds to win the NFC South behind the Falcons, who are now at minus 115 as the heavy favorite. You're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get your $200 in bonus bets when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Whether you're dodging tackles on the field or cheering from your couch, The Joint Chiropractic has your back, literally. As an official chiropractor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they are here to make sure that you are always in the game, no matter your role. If you're feeling the pain after a long week or just looking to stay active, they offer personalized care to help you bounce back stronger. 90% of elite athletes, including NFL pros, rely on chiropractic care to stay at the top of their game and perform their best. At The Joint, you don't need an appointment. Just walk in and get the care you need same day. No scheduling hassles. Just walk in when it's convenient for you. Here's the real kicker. As a Bucs fan, you can get your first visit for just $19. Head over to Buccaneers.com, check out the contests and promotions section under the fans tab, and download the offer. A great deal for the best fans. Head to thejoint.com to find your nearest Tampa area location. Rep wrapping things up here on a live Friday preview episode of the Locked On Bucs podcast. Start dropping your bold predictions and score predictions in the chat. I will get to as many of those as I possibly can at the end of the show. But the Bucs and Saints face off at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans on Sunday at 1 o'clock. The Bucs are favored, a decent over-under considering the injury situations on both sides, but it's time to get to those predictions. Of course, Evan was on storm duty for WTSP covering Hurricane Milton, so he was not able to do WTSP Wednesday. He was not available to join the show today, but he did send in his predictions. I'm going to drop those in as we go along. So Evan's bold prediction is that Sean Tucker will go for over 60 total yards. Well, Evan, darn it, my bold prediction also has to do with a running back, and I am saying that Bucky Irving has his first 100-yard game. I'm not saying this is going to be 100 yards rushing, but he's the headliner in this one. Tucker is going to have some opportunities, but I would venture to guess that 80+% of the running back touches are going to go Bucky's way. He's an explosive play waiting to happen at any moment. Anytime he touches the ball, he can house it. He already has a couple of 30-plus yard runs this season, and against a team allowing over 100 rushing yards per game, he is going to have his chance to break off some explosive plays. Likely coming away from this one with a career high in targets and receptions. His career high in both categories is 3, so not a super high bar to have to pass, but given the fact that Rachaad is generally the pass-catching running back, Bucky is going to have quite a few opportunities in the pass game, and I'm looking for Bucky to be a big contributor in this one with his first 100 all-purpose yard game in his NFL career. Predicted player of the game, Evan is going with Levante David. Levante's been on absolute fire the last couple of weeks, and we saw what happens when KJ Britt was kind of manning the middle of the field, letting Levante go sideline to sideline, chase down running backs, blitz the quarterback. Now with the potential return of Antoine Winfield Jr., Levante can stay in the middle a little bit more than he has the past couple of weeks. He's had to kind of compensate for the loss of Antoine Winfield Jr. Now Winfield can get sent on some of these blitzes. He can come up and play in the box on run defense if Levante drops back in coverage. Vice versa, Levante can come up and play close to the line of scrimmage, and Antoine can come down a little bit, man the middle of the field. There's a lot of different things that Todd Bowles can do now with the potential return of Antoine Winfield Jr. It's going to let Levante play a little more loose, a little more free, and that can lead to, as you all know, some pretty big plays for the Bucs defense. My predicted player of the game is Zyon McCollum. He has been great all year long. He did have a little bit of a down game last week against the Falcons, but Zyon needs to be the guy on Chris Olave all afternoon. I do not think that the Bucs can trust Jamel Dean with that level of assignment. Neither one of these corners have the speed to keep up with Rashid Shaheed. So Whitehead and Winfield are going to have to play center field a little bit and stay back there to not allow another one of these 50-plus yard touchdowns that Rashid Shaheed has had in basically every game but one. McCollum has shown, though, that he has the skills to go one-on-one with any receiver that gets thrown at him. He has earned the job of taking on the opposing team's best weapon. For the New Orleans Saints, that's Chris Olave. He's the best all-around receiver for New Orleans. He can run any route that there is. He can beat you deep. He can beat you over the middle. The more Zyon is on him, the less effective he is going to be, and the more often that Bucs defense is going to be able to get off the field. Zyon bounces back with the type of performances that he has had all year long up until last week against the Falcons, and he's going to absolutely shut down whoever is across from him. Score predictions. Evan's keeping this one close, but he is taking the Bucs to win 23-17. I look at this. This is going to be an emotional game for the Buccaneers. Mike Evans talked about it, that this game is more than a game. It's more than about them. This is for all of those people. It's for the crew who are back home in Florida having to deal with the fallout and the devastation of Hurricane Milton. One of the things we were talking about in our Slack channel with the 813 is, I had asked the question, like, look, do you want me to do Inside the 813 this week with everything that's going on? And we started talking about it. It's like, you know what? This distraction, this escape from what is about to happen is going to be good for a lot of people. I mean, it doesn't change what's going on in Florida, but it gives people 30 minutes, 35 minutes to forget about it for a little while, to kind of decompress and escape. And that's what the Bucs are going to give to their fans on Sunday. They're going to give them 3 hours to escape from what happened, to give them a distraction, to give them a little something to be excited about and happy about before they have to return to dealing with the fallout of Milton. And I think that emotion, that sense of purpose is going to catapult the Bucs into an absolutely phenomenal game. I'm going to take the Bucs in this one, 31-16. I think this is going to be a really big game for the Bucs. I think Bucky gets in the end zone. I think Otton gets in the end zone. And I think Godwin gets in the end zone. Might even see a little Baker scramble into the end zone as well. But I think this is going to be a emotional, just overwhelming win for the Buccaneers and the crew. Going to jump into the live chat. Wow, I am way over on time already. Aaron, player of the game, Logan Hall with 2 sacks. I love that. He has 3 sacks over the last 2 games. That would be back-to-back weeks with 2 sacks, both against division rivals. I absolutely love that pick. We got Benjamin saying, hoping Evans gets his 100-yard plus bag because the road to 1,000 yards is looking very distant. He's in perfectly fine shape to get to 1,000 yards. Don't worry about that quite yet. Let's see. Ghost Hunter Gal says, I love being a homer, hanging with homers on a Friday night on the internets. Bryce says, Winfield getting back on the field after a few weeks is motivation enough for him to ball out. Then add in the factor of Milton along with it, being against the Saints. Poor Rattler. I like that a lot. Let's see. We got Matt says that there's going to be a 60-yard field goal. I'm assuming you mean my dude from the University of Illinois, Chase McLaughlin, booting a 60-yarder. Demon Hunter always comes in hot with the bowl predictions. Demon Hunter says, Super Bowl prediction, New Orleans is looking for a new coach on Monday because we beat them so badly. I don't know if they're going to be looking for a new coach on Monday, but I think they're going to be looking for a new coach after the season, and there's going to be an interim. I'll say before Thanksgiving, maybe around Halloween, is when I would expect to see Dennis Allen gone. Aaron says Bucs win 38-9. We got destined for greatness, 2 interceptions and 8 sacks for the defense. My goodness, they would certainly rattle Rattler with 8 sacks. I would absolutely love that. Let's see. We got destined for greatness, crew life since 95. And then I see, some of you guys talking about, the first Buccaneers win. The first win in franchise history was in New Orleans against the Saints. Archie Manning said that it would be a disgrace to lose to the Buccaneers, and he proceeded to get absolutely shellacked. I believe the Bucs had 3 defensive touchdowns in that one, 2 pick sixes and a fumble recovery in the end zone. Absolutely throttled the New Orleans Saints, and then went on to win the next week to finish their second season at 2-12. But that is going to do it for this episode. I am way over. I appreciate all of you coming through on the live. You guys are the absolute best. And again, I know I talked about it on Wednesday. I talked about it on Inside the 813. For those of you dealing with the fallout of Hurricane Milton, I hope you all got through it. I hope all of you and your loved ones and your friends and family and neighbors and everyone are safe and sound. Still praying for all of you to now get through the next process of having to deal with the damage and everything going on. But you're still in my thoughts. You're still in my prayers. I appreciate and love each and every one of you. Please check out everything going on over at the 813.tv. Oh, and real quick, shout out to the Saints. I know we all talk a lot of smack about the New Orleans Saints because they are a division rival. They are doing donations for Hurricane Milton relief at the game this weekend. So shout out to them. Absolutely phenomenal gesture from that franchise who knows a thing or two about some hurricanes coming through. So I did see Ross Jackson tweet about that. I wanted to give them a shout out because that is a phenomenal thing that they are doing for all of the people that were affected by Hurricane Milton. Check out everything going on over at the 813.tv. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @JYarcho_Bucs. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider. And make sure you're subscribed on YouTube with those notifications turned on. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And if you're feeling so generous, hit the like button. That helps people find us on YouTube. And leave a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts. That also helps other Buccaneers fans find the show. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.